opinion. He looks scared. He looks scared of his own shadow in there. So
he engaged differently to the way he did in the House of Ramirez.
He didn't really want to engage. You know, he's happy to nick rounds and nick fights. But for me, yeah, there weren't no entertainment in there, and it's entertainment business. Ultimately, I give people fight of the year contenders. He puts people to sleep, and I'm not talking about in the ring.
Okay, I'm reloaded!
This boy Conor Benn got some nerve. We're gonna jump right into this. Shep, tell him what we're gonna do.
I bought some books. I bought some crazy hard, scar your motherfucking ass books. What, is there a problem, Kyle?
All right, so we got Conor Benn, a fighter who's never fought for a world title, a fighter whose best wins on his resume are Adrian Granados, Chris Algieri, and a weight-drained Chris Eubank Jr.
What?
Matter of fact, he fought Chris Eubank Jr. twice while he was weight drained and couldn't even beat him twice. He lost to a weight drained version of Chris Eubank Jr. This dude, the first fight got canceled and postponed because he popped hot in a drug test and blamed it on some fucking eggs. I don't know about y'all, man, but I eat eggs every day. I ain't got no traces of PEDs in my system. Yo, this dude right here, right? If you look at the resume, I just mentioned Adrian Granados, Chris Algieri, Chris Eubank Jr. are his best wins in 9 years of boxing. He was a professional. He turned pro in 2016. 9 years of boxing, those are his best wins, right? But if you really look at those three guys and analyze their resumes, his best win on his fucking resume in 9 years of boxing, guys, is Chris Algieri.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Why? Because Chris Algieri was the only champion out of those three, right? Adrian Granados didn't win a belt, a major belt. Chris Eubank Jr. never won a major title. Chris Algieri did when he beat Ruslan Provodnikov. He won the WBO 140-pound title, right? Now, he immediately gave that belt up to Manny Pacquiao, right? When Pacquiao was on his tear moving through divisions at that time. But he was still a champion. He actually beat a top-level fighter in the division at the time to gain a major world title. That's the best win on his resume. He fought Chris Algieri in 2021. A washed version of him. It's still his best win on his resume. And you telling me this guy right here thinks he can dictate and call the shots on a guy who's a 3-division champion, a former undisputed champion, right? And a top 10 pound for pound fighter?
Nigga, you got to be crazy!
Listen, if you don't have Devin Haney in your top 10 pound for pound list at this point in time, he's got to be an honorable mention at close 11, 12, 13. If you don't have him in any realm of the top 10, you're fucking delusional. You're just a hater. You just don't like the guy. That's just what it is, man. Right? The Ryan Garcia shit was 2 fights ago. Right? He got knocked down. He lost the fight. But then the loss got reversed. Why? Ryan Garcia's stupid ass popped hot. That's not Devin Haney's fault. He popped hot. Devin Haney fought Jose Ramirez. Wasn't a good looking fight. Won that one. But then proceeded to move up to 147, where he's comfortable, where he probably should have been at 2 fights ago, and destroys a WBO champion in Brian Norman. So he's still undefeated. He's a 3-division champion, and he's a former undisputed champion. And understand, when he won undisputed, it was real undisputed. Wasn't that gifted bullshit that they're trying to do, or that they try to do for Teofimo Lopez, right? The WBC franchise title. Nah, he didn't have that. He had the real WBC title. and beat George Kambosos, a.k.a. George Booty, right, to become undisputed, the real undisputed 135-pound champion. So Devin Haney's resume is legit. So you got to have him at least top 15 best fighters in the sport. But anyway, Conor Benn, a guy with the resume that I just mentioned, a fighter that hasn't fought anybody, that hasn't fought for a world title yet, thinks he can dictate terms. This dude is listen, man, I never liked Conor Benn to begin with. I never thought he was a good fighter. I always thought he was ducking and dodging cats. Like, this dude won't even fight Lewis Crocker, who's the IBF welterweight champion. He's not a good fighter at all. He's a UK fighter. He won't even fight that guy because he believes that the IBF rehydration clause, he doesn't like that rehydration clause, like a 10-pound rehydration clause. He doesn't like it. Because he doesn't like that clause, he won't fight for the IBF title. Man, get the fuck out of here, bro. Talked all that shit about, remember, fighting Adrian Broner back in the day. That never materialized. That wasn't Broner's fault. That was Conor Benn's fault. Talked all that shit about fighting Boots Ennis, acting as if he really wants that fight. Then Boots signs with Eddie Hearn. That motherfucker goes silent, right? Boots would have destroyed Conor Benn. He don't want that smoke. He don't want smoke with Devin Haney. He don't want smoke with these guys. They're too skilled for him. Let me read off what he said after the damn fight where Devin Haney demolished Brian Norman Jr. He said, it wasn't really a great performance in my opinion. Haney looked scared of his own shadow in there. I thought he really didn't want to engage. He's happy to nick rounds and nick fights. To me, there wasn't no entertainment in there, and it's an entertainment business. He puts people to sleep, and I'm not talking about in the ring. And then that faggot-ass Eddie Hearn come on and shit. He's talking about he doesn't want to engage, mate, at any moment of the fight. Man, get the fuck out of here, bruh. He's engaged in the entire fight. He was beating the shit out of Brian Norman the majority of the fight. The only criticism I have of Devin Haney is that he took his foot off the gas in the second half of the fight. That's it. Had he not taken his foot off the gas, Brian Norman probably wouldn't have won more than 2 rounds, maybe more than 1 round. I think I gave Brian Norman round 1, which was a fill-out round for Devin Haney. And to me, in that first round is the only round where I thought Devin Haney looked scared, right? But in round 2, he came back, took the fight to Brian Norman, landed an overhand right, knocked that boy down. Then tried to knock him out in that round, but couldn't get the knockout, right? But that set the tone for the entire fight. Brian Norman didn't really want to engage himself for the first half of the fight. It was only when Devin Haney took his foot off the gas is when Brian Norman said, okay, it doesn't look like Devin Haney is being as aggressive as he was in the first half of the fight. Now maybe I could take it to him a little bit more. And that's when Brian Norman probably banked a few rounds. Like I said, I gave him round 1, round 7, and round 9 for sure. 7 and 9 were because Devin Haney took his foot off the gas. Now, some people gave him round 12. I have no problem with that. Again, Devin Haney taking his foot off the gas. Devin Haney gave rounds to Brian Norman. Brian Norman didn't beat Devin Haney in any round specifically. It was more so that Devin Haney stopped boxing and doing the things he needed to do to secure the rounds that he was securing earlier in the fight, and basically said, here you go, Brian Norman, some charity rounds. That's essentially what took place. Now, to Brian Norman's credit, he took advantage of what Devin Haney was giving him, right? He didn't just, sit back and allow the fight to be dull because Devin Haney took his foot off the gas. No, he said, okay, if he's going to take his foot off the gas, I'm going to take it to him. And he did that, and he earned those rounds. But at the end of the day, if Devin Haney was doing the same shit that he was doing in the first half of the fight in the second half, he could have won this fight probably just losing the first round. That would have been the only round he would have lost, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, man, Devin Haney moved up to 147, first fight there, took it to the champ, and beat the shit out of him. There's no criticism here other than what I said about him taking his foot off the gas. But Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn were acting as if he was running the whole fight, like he didn't want to engage. He was first in almost every single fucking round behind his jab. The jab couldn't miss. Every round, every single round, even the rounds that I gave to Brian Norman, I'm watching Devin Haney's jab snap Norman's head back with ease. He was popping that shit out there, bruh. It was a piston jab. Brian Norman had nothing for that shit. Kept his head on the center line the entire fight. No head movement, no upper body movement. And this is what I was saying in the prediction video we made. Brian Norman has no type of fucking head movement, bruh. Keeps his head on the center line the whole fight. So that's an easy target. You're going to stay there, and you don't have the footwork, the ability to apply angles, to basically get around your opponent. You're just going to be there, moving forward and back. Bet. Let me pump this jab out there and keep knocking your head off your goddamn neck. That's exactly what was happening, bro. Even the rounds that Haney didn't win, he was still doing that. This fight was not a situation where Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn should have left that fight talking about Conor Benn was falling asleep on Eddie Hearn's shoulder. Devin Haney didn't want to engage. Eddie Hearn talking about Devin Haney was doing some running. This is bullshit, man. All this is code for that guy Devin Haney is way too skilled for me. I'm not about to get in the ring with that dude. Hell nah, not me. Let me get Rolando Romero, aka Rolly Romero, or maybe the winner of Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. Yeah, let me get them cats right there. That's what he said. That was the other part of the interview. Let me get them dudes right there. Yeah. You know, that's a fight. What'd he say? That's an exciting fight. Those fights excite me. Yeah, they excite you because they suck. Rolly Romero is garbage. Ryan Garcia is garbage. Mario Barrios is garbage. Hell, Mario Barrios almost lost to a 79-year-old Manny Pacquiao, bruh. Manny Pacquiao's 162 years old, bruh. And Mario Barrios had trouble with that guy. Get the fuck out of here. Are you kidding me? Listen, man. Conor Benn always has been and always will be a scared fighter. And some of you casuals don't know. When a boxing enthusiast says a fighter is scared, casuals think that we're saying that a scared fighter is somebody who's actually scared of another man in the ring. That's not what we're saying. Basically, when a boxing enthusiast says that a boxer is scared, we're talking about image, right? There's a certain type of person you gotta be to be a fighter. I was a fighter. Pretty much everybody that works on 3kingsboxing.com, they were fighters. There's only a couple guys that weren't fighters, right? But I employ more ex-fighters than non-fighters. All of us can tell you that getting in the ring is not the problem, right? It's the image outside the ring. And even as an amateur, you don't really care too much about that. But as a professional, this is prize fighting. The more wins you get, the more you have opportunities to get bigger checks and bigger paydays. So if he goes in there and gets completely demolished by someone like Devin Haney, that could lower his stock, right? If he were to fight Adrian Broner, who at the time was still a pretty washed fighter, but Conor Benn's skills are so fucking limited that an Adrian Broner fight might have been a decent matchup, honestly, right? A washed Adrian Broner against Conor Benn is a decent fight. That's how bad Conor Benn is. And I'm not talking about the Adrian Broner today that lost to Blair Cobbs. No, I'm talking about the one a couple of years ago when those two were beefing, right? When Adrian Broner hadn't looked as bad as he looks today. That was still a decent fucking matchup, right? They're talking about Conor Benn and Josh Kelly at one time. Josh Kelly ain't no world beater, no top level fighter. Everybody knows that knows boxing, that ain't British, right? He's not a top level fighter. But that was a good matchup at one point in time when those two were beefing, right? So these guys that Conor Benn is picking, they are on his level because he knows that he has a good chance to beat a Rolly Romero, a Ryan Garcia, a Mario Barrios. He has an excellent chance of beating those guys. But when it comes to someone like a Devin Haney, right, a Boots Ennis who just moved up to 154, but when he was at 147 and holding the IBF title, Boots Ennis, Terrence Crawford when he was at 147. Those guys would demolish this kid, man. I don't even think he beats Amanda Stanionis. He knows it. Eddie Hearns knows it. And even Nigel Benn knows it, right? Nigel Benn was like, Devin Haney's not the guy for Conor. You know what I'm saying? Moves around, jumps around, runs around too much. That's not the right kind of fight. I'm paraphrasing what he said. But they all have the same excuse. Devin Haney's a runner and doesn't engage, which is completely false based on the fight that he just had with Brian Norman. It's completely false. What they see is a guy that is going to outbox their man. It will fuck his image up, and it could possibly lower his stock. That's what they see, That's what they want to avoid. And Conor Benn himself wants to avoid that. That's why he ain't been in no major title fight in 9 years of a pro career. That shit is crazy. Not saying that a lot of other people don't do that, right? I was talking about Brandon Lee, who's also, I think he's a 147-pound fighter still. Brandon Lee, been in the game, I think about the same time, was a big-time amateur. Everybody knows who Brandon Lee is that is in the boxing community, right? Ex-boxers that are retired, boxers that are current, they'll tell you about Brandon Lee as an amateur. He was an excellent amateur. So coming into the pros, he should have had all kinds of buzz. You know, should have been on the fast track like an Andy Cruz. But no, he's been in the game about the same amount of time or maybe even longer than Conor Benn, and he still ain't fought nobody. So there's guys that do that. But the difference between someone like a Brandon Lee and a Conor Benn is that a Conor Benn has a dad who's a legend and a Hall of Fame fighter that he's coming in underneath. So he's automatically going to be put in the spotlight. Everybody in the UK is going to be looking at Nigel Benn's son. How good is he? How good is he really? Who's he fighting, right? And even here in America, we know who Nigel Benn is. So we're going to be looking at Conor Benn as well. Oh, yeah, we'd like to see him against one of our top American fighters. You see what I'm saying? That's how that shit works. He's basically coming into the professional ranks on a higher pedestal, if you will, than someone like Brandon Lee. So Brandon Lee can sit back and still fight guys that he already knows he can beat before they get in the ring. But Conor Benn is going to be scrutinized at a higher level than a Brandon Lee would because of the name that backs him. So 9 years in the game, you haven't fought for a world title yet. Your best wins are fucking Adrian Granados, Chris Eubank Jr., and the best win on your resume is Chris Algieri. Hey, yo, bro, get that shit the fuck out of here. How about you talk about fighting somebody instead of trying to scrutinize somebody and say why you wouldn't fight them? How about that? Stop going and cherry picking dudes. How about that? Conor Benn is a clown, man. Anybody who follows Conor Benn and agrees with this bullshit is a clown as well. Man, let me know what y'all think in the comments section. We'll be back for another one.